Tonight, Stephen King has a bit of fun at the expense of all those who fetishise walking in an exhausting Macclevoid at the movies. Hello, I'm Dr. Macclevoid. No, it's not my real name, and welcome to another edition of Macclevoid at the movies. Some of the movies, some of the time. This week we're talking about Stephen King, who under his old pseudonym Richard Bachman wrote a lot of fun but schlocky B-movie type thrillers back in the 80s, one of which I'm reliably informed was The Long Walk, which has now been adapted into a movie, just like every other Stephen King story. And what's it about? Well, I suppose it's about walking, as the title would suggest. You all know people, don't you, who love walking? Have you noticed it's become a kind of a natural thing that no one ever used to talk about, like reading, that's become a fetish in our society. If you walk a lot, you talk about it, don't you? You make videos about it, and you put something on your Facebook that says, I'm about to do 2k, I'm about to do the 10k for, I don't know, amphibians with AIDS, or I'm gonna do a marathon. I'm gonna do a whole marathon. I'm gonna do it in support of Jay from EastEnders, who's been fired, so he can eat. Don't want to see him starve after 19 years of good work on TV, etc., etc. I love to walk. We'll walk. I'm walking for charity. I'm walking for myself. It's fitness of the body and of the mind, and I love to walk. I love to read. I love to walk. I walk and read and walk. Sometimes I walk while reading. I read and I walk at the same time. So I walk every day and I read every day. And that makes me better than you. Better than you that sits on your lazy fat ass doing nothing. You don't read at all, do you? You don't walk? So what are you? Nothing. Not even human. That's my fetish. Walking. I love to walk. I'm walking. So anyway, this is a story that could be construed as a sort of send-up of all of that. It's one of Stephen King's apocalyptic futures in which, entertainment has been hybridised with sadistic violence for the benefit of a debased population. You'll remember The Running Man, where, hunting a human to death became a game show.
It's showtime!
And The Long Walk's a similar idea. It's set in the unimaginable future where America's become a sort of backwater. Every town's a one-stop town. Every town's a redneck backwater with, old cars and old clothes and cars on fire and God knows what else, and everybody's miserable. But they've got something to look forward to, and that's The Long Walk. And what's The Long Walk? Well, it's a strange kind of contest. All the men in all 50 states enter the contest. One from each state is chosen, and those 50 people walk until they drop. But if they drop, they're shot dead by the military tanks that follow them and the soldiers that are there to ensure that they stay on the road and, stay in the game. The last man alive is the winner, and he gets a cash prize and a special wish. Now, I know what I'd wish for. Well, probably at least a new pair of shoes. maybe a guarantee I'd never have to walk anywhere ever again. This is no short walk, by the way. I mean, this movie would have us believe that people can walk for hundreds of miles before they, in one sitting, before they will drop. Well, one can't help but think, no, not me. I'd last maybe 3 or 4 miles, and then I'd just say to the soldier, just shoot me in the head. I'm not going to go any further. What kind of stupid contest is this anyway? I mean, really? Just walking. It's not great entertainment. Even the people making the show admit that it only really gets interesting toward the end. Somehow they know where to position the crowd. They know that the contestants will start to succumb. The final contestants will start to succumb around the 300-mile mark, and they're all assembled there, ready to go with the cameras, even though, in theory, the game could end at any time. I mean, you could have 50 rebellious walkers that said, screw this, we're all going to just stop dead, and then you'd be forced to shoot them all. Or you might have 50 lazy walkers, or 50 unfit walkers, or unexpected complications. But somehow they know that at around the 300-mile mark, that's where it's going to happen. That's where the climax is going to be, which is very convenient. Look, this is a sort of, it's a one note premise. It's a single high concept. And I've not read Stephen King's book, and neither have you. But we must assume that Stephen laboured long and hard to ensure that the characters had plenty to say for themselves, because it is only them walking along for the duration of the story. He must have put in a lot of background in the dialogue, lots of flashbacks, some rudimentary complications, cramp, diarrhea, etc., all of which are in the movie. The shoes literally falling off your feet, escape attempts, what have you. So a story like this lives or dies on whether or not the characters are interesting, because we're stuck with them for a long time. All we're going to do is see them walking and talking. And whether or not there can be some sort of sufficient denouement to the whole thing. How's it going to end? And a story like this invites you to speculate on that all the way through, because you've got a lot of time to think about it. In the case of this movie, about 1 hour and 40 minutes. How will the filmmakers deal with some obvious pitfalls? Like, for example, are the characters that we're introduced to at the very beginning of the story the ones that we're focusing on? Is that a spoiler? Are those the characters that are going to make it to the finish line? Have we already seen the winners? Or winner? What do you do with that? How do you sort of keep the tension going when you sort of know which two characters are going to get to the end? And then, of course, how do you cope with that? Because by then, of course, they've formed a great bond and they're friends and they've been through adversity together. And how do you create an ending that seems either just or is poignant or is surprising? How do you create a satisfying ending to a story which is more about the journey than the end? Arguably. That's what I'm going to argue. You'd have to agree with me, but you'd be wrong, wouldn't you? I'm not going to spoil the end of The Long Walk for you in case you plan to go on a long walk with the filmmakers, but I will say that for me the ending was disappointing. And it's it's because the filmmakers don't have many choices. And I don't know how King's story ends, but I imagine it's a similar sort of torturous and contrived way of trying to wring something like satisfaction out of what is essentially a nihilistic and apocalyptic premise. And up to that ending, it's not a bad movie. The performances are pretty rich. A little bit more could have been done with characterisation. The dialogue could have been a little bit sharper in places. But it's not badly directed. There are nice moments as they're passing through different parts of the Midwest that give you a sense of how society has declined in the intervening years. There is a revenge plot which is built into the story, which is, I would say, a contrivance too far. Maybe something you can get away with on the page if you provide enough backstory, but in a movie just feels a bit sort of crowbarred in. But again, how do you generate tension? How do you generate suspense in a movie where people walk for an hour and 40 minutes? You got to do something. This movie does as much as it can do under those circumstances. But that said, there was a part of me that thought, this is a Stephen King story that would have really benefited from a cold, inhuman treatment. Something like Stanley Kubrick. I'd love to have seen his version of this story. Because I think that there would have been a little more edge to his version. It would have been more precise, more methodical, less sentimental. And maybe a little more inventive in terms of the way the characters were realised. How would Kubrick have ended it? I don't know. We'll never know. But I imagine with a little bit more invention than we see here. So, if you like walking and you like Stephen King, you'll probably enjoy The Long Walk. But don't come crying to me if you come away with a sort of curious sense of dissatisfaction. A sense of a story that didn't quite live up to its billing. It's fine. It's perhaps thought-provoking in places. But it could have been more. A little more. But maybe not much more. Go and see it, or don't. Maybe you'll go on a 4K walk for I don't know, crustaceans with cancer instead. And if so, good luck to you. But for God's sake, if you are going to do that, don't tell me about it on your Facebook account. Till next time, I'm Dr. Macclevoid. It's not my real name. Goodbye.
Bastard! Drop dead!
I don't do requests.